Hello. Seeing that I'm wearing sweatpants, running shoes, and woolen shorts, an outfit worthy of exercise, I'm sure that you would have assumed that I was coming from doing some form of exercise. Well, actually, no. You and I both know that I was rehearsing my TED speech one last time. But in theory, if you were to see me in the streets, you would have made an assumption based on my attire that I was either coming from or going to do exercise. But in reality, that assumption was entirely wrong. And if you give me a moment, I can show you what I was really doing. I was eating cake. You could have easily assumed that because it looked like I was engaging in a healthy behavior, that I was actually doing such a healthy action. Whereas based off of the reality of what I was really doing, eating cake, you can see that that assumption was wrong. And it is that assumption that I will discuss today. So when thinking about individuals who are unhealthy, people tend to go to two extremes. Looking behind me, you'll see the first extreme, a person who is overweight or obese. When thinking of an overweight or obese person, you tend to think of them as being lazy. You assume that they do not exercise nor eat healthily based on their physical appearance. Now look at the second extreme, a person who is extremely underweight, such as a person with anorexia nervosa. When looking at this photograph or thinking about someone with this disorder, you generally think about the unhealthy behaviors that they engage in, as well as the physical manifestations of the disorder, such as extreme weight loss, osteoporosis, amenorrhea, among others. So these are the two extremes that people associate unhealthy behaviors with. But what about the middle people? Those people who are neither overweight or underweight, but in that range in the middle. In my opinion, it is those people in the middle that need to receive the most attention when it comes to health, because as they do not convey a physical appearance that indicates a serious problem with the way that they eat and exercise, they are assumed to be healthy. And it is that assumption and delusion of health that I want to shatter today. Just because you are not overweight or underweight does not mean that you are healthy. Now, in order to give you a reason for why this is, I first need to give you an abdominal anatomy lesson, or a crash course on fats in different regions of your body that are relevant to this topic. In this area of your body, you have an abdominal cavity. Any fat that is located in front of it or behind it, or around it for that matter of fact, is known as subcutaneous fat. This is the fat that you see, and the fat that causes the infamous rolls and love handles on a person. Any fat that is located behind your abdominal wall, or inside your abdominal cavity, or even inside your thoracic cavity, is called visceral fat. This is the bad fat, the fat that accumulates around the organs. And it is due to the varying amounts of each of these two types of fats that gives reason for why you cannot assume a person's health based on their physical appearance. Now, I like to think of visceral fat as a sort of ninja fat, as you can hardly notice that it is there, as well as it being difficult to detect through calculating a person's body mass index. Recently, there have been numerous studies done concerning visceral fat, and the results may surprise you as much as they surprised me. In 2001, Huang and others conducted a study involving children with a mean age of 8.1. The researchers conducted MRI scans on the children and found that, on average, the boys had about 25% of visceral fat, and the girls had an even higher percentage, 25.9%. And what is so scary about these findings is that they came from children. These children have probably not even hit puberty yet, and they're already setting themselves up for a variety of health problems because visceral fat is known to increase one's risk for cardiovascular disease as well as type 2 diabetes. Furthermore, visceral fat is not that noticeable. Without generalizing, when I went to China, one thing that I can vividly remember is the food. Although it was extremely tasty, it had such a high fat content. And I remember thinking that how is there not more people that were overweight in China? And recently I read a study concerning visceral fat that was conducted in China. And the results showed that the participants were fat on the inside. So even though they may not have been fat to the naked eye, their diet was having a negative impact on their health because the fat was being stored as visceral fat. And this just proves to show that what you see isn't always the truth. I myself, I love to eat junk food, sweets, chocolate chips, and whatever else you can think of to name. And because it has never caused me to gain a substantial amount of weight, I never saw any reason to change the way that I ate. But to be honest with you, reading about visceral fat scared me. Made me think that maybe I was not as healthy as I thought I was. I assumed that I was healthy based on my physical appearance, and that is wrong, same amount of calories. This is because when your body requires energy, it breaks down carbohydrates before it breaks down fats. Based on this, if you have one person who consumes a lot of carbohydrates and another person who consumes the same amount of calories and fats, the person who consumes the carbohydrates could potentially be of a normal weight, and also the person who consumes the fats could potentially be overweight. It is all in what you eat. And this was actually supported through a study by Dranowski and others, where they found that high fat consumption actually plays a larger role in the development of obesity than high carbohydrate consumption. And that is why if you look at some dietary programs, some of them will place emphasis on increasing your carbohydrate consumption and decreasing your fat consumption. And you know what? Decreasing your fat consumption won't only improve the way that you look, it can also improve your percentage of visceral fat. But the key to losing visceral fat does not all lie in the diet. Exercise is vital. So if I want you to do anything today, it would not to become a hypochondriac about visceral fat, but to not make an assumption of your health based on your physical appearance. Eating well is important. Exercise is important. I think that when people are stressed about work and daily activities, they feel that it is easy to give up on engaging in healthy behaviors. But that is a fundamental error. I believe that it is during those times of stress that people need to engage in healthy behaviors the most. And in order to display why this is, I actually conducted my own research survey by asking high school students that lived in the United Arab Emirates and the United States of America 3 things: their GPAs, their average energy levels throughout the week, and the amount of exercise that they did each week. And I found that there was a direct positive correlation between the amount of exercise that the students did each week and their average energy levels throughout the week. I also found that those students who did a moderate amount of exercise throughout the week actually had higher GPAs. And those students who did excessive amounts of exercise throughout the week actually had lower GPAs, probably because they spent too much time outside and not enough time studying. There needs to be a balance. But as you can see, there are positive effects to engaging in healthy behaviors such as exercise. So, base your health on what you do and what you eat, and not the way that you look. Thank you.